Hi friends, welcome to another week of Summer Sunday School. It's good to have you back with us. I hope you had a good week. Yeah, I think I did too. And the sun is shining, so that's really even nice, isn't it? But it's so hot. I hope you could do something fun outside to keep cool. Run through the sprinkler like I did when I was little, since we can't go to the pool these days. All right, so let's see what's up this week. Make sure you got your emails and your bulletins for the different classes, so you've got those, and your coloring sheet. Make sure you've got that so you can color. And then you should have your leaflet, okay? So make sure you've got that, and we're gonna need a crayon, and you're gonna need some pennies, okay? Some pennies, so stop the video and get some pennies and get a crayon. All right. So today, our story is going to be about the unforgiving servant, and our key word is going to be forgiveness. Okay, so forgiveness is our word this week. So when have you ever had to say you're sorry? You ever had to say you're sorry? Did you ever do anything that made you say you had to say you're sorry? Or did someone do something to you and they had to apologize to you? They had to say sorry to you? So take a minute and think about some time when either you had to say you're sorry for something you did, or when somebody had to say sorry to you for something that they did to you. Yeah, think about what happened. So take a minute and think about sometime you had to say sorry, or sometimes somebody said sorry to you. And then just remember that everybody makes mistakes sometimes, right? And we have to apologize because nobody's perfect except God. Right? So we're not perfect. So there's always times that we do something that's going to hurt somebody or that we didn't mean to do, and we have to say sorry. Okay? All right. So that's good. All right. So when we're sorry, what are we really doing? We're asking for forgiveness, and that's our word. So when we say we're sorry, we're asking for forgiveness for the person, right, that we hurt. All right. So today, Jesus tells his disciples a story about how it's important to forgive, okay? And even though forgiveness can be hard, because if we're angry, or we're hurt, or we're sad, sometimes it's hard to forgive, isn't it? But we will, because God wants us to forgive. And God always forgives us, right? So think about forgiveness. All right. So get your leaflet. All right, and on the front, you have a smaller version, but on the front it says, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. Forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And what's in the center here? There's a heart. Yeah, so you could take your crayon and color the heart at the center, because forgiveness is at the center of God's love. All right, and do you know what this is? What this is a picture of? This is called a labyrinth. Labyrinth. It's not a maze, it's a labyrinth. And a labyrinth is something, it looks all confusing and whatever, but there's no dead end on a labyrinth. So if you think about it, when you've been to the corn maze or something, there's dead ends to that, aren't there? And so you get confused and you can get lost. But with a labyrinth is not a maze, a labyrinth has no dead ends. So you start on the end. All right, so come follow with me. We're gonna go through the maze, and we'll see there's no dead end, and we're gonna end up in the center. Okay, so we're gonna enter. We're gonna follow it along. Follow it with your finger, and as you're following it, before I get confused here. As we're following it, you're gonna say, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. All right, so we're following and following. Are you following with me on yours? And we're saying forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And we're still winding around. But guess what? There we go, we made it. Forgiveness is at the center of God's love, right? We didn't get stopped, did we? In all these little paths, we made it. And after you take a minute in the center, we're going to walk out again. And we're going to say, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. So we're going to follow it back out. And we're not going to get lost. And we're going to follow it. Say, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. Going around and around. Around. Oh my goodness. And there we go. And we got out. Forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And this is a labyrinth. But you know what? I have a labyrinth. Some of them are not as complicated as this one, but I have one that I bought. And this is called a finger labyrinth that I can do if I'm sitting at my desk and I just feel like thinking or praying or thinking about God. I can follow my labyrinth and I just go slow and I think and I can pray. And I remember that forgiveness is at the center of God's love as I walk in mine, yeah. So this I can have at my desk and to think about God and praying when I get anxious or I need to feel sorry or I need to ask for forgiveness. And you know what was really cool? If you have an older brother or sister who's in confirmation, this last fall, Mrs. Hempker had an elective with the kids and they made prayer labyrinths. So they took the clay like that and they made prayer labyrinths, which so pretty cool, huh? And they're not all the same. They can look different. Some are more complicated and some are easier, right? And the kids were praying and thinking about forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And you know what the cool thing on this one is? If you look real close, there's a heart here. And I'll bet you when Lauren made this, she didn't know the story about forgiveness is at the center of God's love, but she put the heart there because she knew as she was praying she got to God. Isn't that cool? She put that on there. Very neat. All right. Where else do you think there might be a prayer labyrinth? Do you know? Come with me. Let's go find one more prayer labyrinth. Come on, let's go. We made it! Where did we go? We came to the prayer labyrinth. We came across the street. There's church. And we came across the street. And now we're at the prayer labyrinth. And this is a nature prayer labyrinth. It's not just one that we use our fingers. This is the one we're going to use our feet. And we're going to walk the prayer labyrinth. And this particular prayer labyrinth was made by Kessler Goodenough for his senior exit project a couple of years ago. And we thank him for that gift because this is a place where we can walk and we can center ourselves and we can get to the center. And remember, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And you know what? This week it was really cool too. I saw on Facebook that Mrs. Ellefson, she's in our choir, and she has a granddaughter, Sophia, who is in Sunday school, and she was out jogging during the week, and she came to the prayer labyrinth. She jogged by, and she saw it and remembered it, and she stopped so that she could take a break and rest with God, and she could pray, and she walked the labyrinth. Isn't that cool? So when you're out and about and walking around or riding your bike, you can stop and walk the prayer labyrinth and remember that at the center, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And you could do that too, don't you think? And our prayer labyrinth, there's a way in, and you follow the path just like on our leaflet in Sunday school. But this time we're going to walk it, and we're going to walk between the bricks. And one of these days we're going to redo our bricks so that we can see our path. So we got to really pay attention. So I have to watch really carefully where I'm going. So come with me. But while I'm going to walk, I'm going to pray. And I'm going to think about that forgiveness is at the center of God's love. So as I walk, come walk with me. But keep saying, forgiveness is at the center of God's love. So come on, let's go. Praying with me? Forgiveness is at the center of God's love. and see there's Bible verses along the way too. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from the holy mountain. All right. Getting close. But we still got a ways to go. To remember that forgiveness is at the center of God's love. When we come to the center, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." And if you look really carefully, there's a cross, because forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And where do we get forgiveness? Jesus died on the cross, right? So forgiveness is at the center of God's love. We have a bench. Let's sit on the bench, take a minute to pray, and remember. What do we need to remember? Forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And we pray, and you rest. And if you think about the children's sermon about the burdens, this is where the burdens are lifted. So if you watch that too. So Jesus lifts our burdens and forgives us. Forgiveness is at the center of God's love. And now we're going to walk back. And when you leave here, you're going to retrace your steps. We're going to go out the same way we came. And remember, we just keep walking and walking the labyrinth until we get to the end. And then we'll go back to church. I'll meet you back at church after I walk out of the labyrinth. See you later. Just a minute. It's good to be back inside. It's nice and cool in here, and it's so hot outside. The sun was shining. But wasn't that a fun adventure? Thanks for going with me. And I would invite you sometime when you're out and about to stop over at the Prayer Labyrinth and check it out. All right. So now, back to our video time. So our kids are trying to understand what the word forgiveness means. And then Jesus says about how to forgive others. Let's see what they're figuring out about Jesus wanting them to forgive others. Okay, so let's see what it's about.
Hey, Victor, do you see those numbers hovering in midair?
Oh, look at that. Mystery numbers.
Why are they there?
Give it time. The purpose will reveal itself.
Oh, but...
Pencil.
Huh?
Pencil.
Oh, did you forget your pencil, Jax?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to borrow mine?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Jax. Here you are. Jax! What are you doing? You're chewing on my pencil. Jax! Why would you do that? Oh, you're hungry?
I'm sorry.
I forgive you. Victor? Victor, I think the numbers might be a forgiveness counter.
Oh, that's presumptuous.
Well, I just forgave Jax, and the number rose to 1.
Forgive him again.
But I just forgave him. Why would I forgive him? Jax! Why? Why are you eating my leaflet?
Sorry.
I forgive you.
Yep, a bona fide forgiveness counter.
Ugh, how many times do I have to forgive him? Is there a limit?
7 times 70 times.
7 times 70 times?
That's what Jesus says in the book of Matthew.
I have to forgive Jax 490 billion times?
490 times.
490 times?
Yep. Good luck.
What do you mean by that? Ah! Jax, no! My bed! My house is 12 miles away. How did my bed even get here?
Sorry.
I you. Is that it? My priceless tiny unicorn collection.
Joey.
I forgive you. I forgive you for all of it. That's it, Jax. I've forgiven you 490 times. I can't forgive you anymore. My bike that I just got for my birthday.
Sorry.
I forgive you. Wait, I can still forgive you even past 7 times 70 times? Do you know what this means, Jax? Forgiveness goes on forever.
Hooray!
But that does not mean you get to keep destroying my stuff forever.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I forgive you.
Okay, so what happened in our story? Oh my goodness. Jax just had an empty tummy, didn't he? He just was a bottomless pit. Oh my goodness. Okay, so who noticed the floating numbers out there first? It was Ada, wasn't it? Yeah. She wondered what that meant up there. All right, and what was Jax doing that was bothering Ada? What was the first simple thing? He just asked to borrow her pencil, didn't he? She figured it was no big deal. She just said, here you go, you can borrow my pencil. But then what did he do? He ate it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But he said he was sorry. And she said she forgave him. And then, what did he take next? Her paper. And he ate that. And he said he was sorry. And then he ate her bed and her collection of her little teeny tiny unicorns and her bicycle. He kept taking all kinds of things. And the more he took, the more important and special things were, weren't they, that he was taking? But what did he say every time? Sorry. So she kept forgiving him, didn't she? Yeah, she did. And what did Jesus say? How many times that you were supposed to forgive somebody? 7 times 70. Yeah. And those of you that know your math, can you figure that out really quick? 7 times 70 is how many? 490, yeah. And they told us that too, didn't they? I was just checking to see if you could do your math. All right, so 490 times. And so she kept forgiving and forgiving and forgiving. And she finally Ada reached 490 times, didn't she? And then she decided she didn't have to forgive Jax anymore. But then what happened? And he ate something else, right? That was her bicycle the next time, wasn't it? Oh my goodness, yeah. And she forgave him again. And the number clicked. And what did she discover? You don't have to just stop at 490 times, do you? She said forgiveness goes on and on, forever, indefinitely, right? So we just keep forgiving people. Yeah. So why is it hard, do you think, to forgive somebody sometimes? Why do you think it's hard? So talk about that with the folks in the room with you. Why do you think it's hard to forgive somebody? So what'd you decide? Sometimes it's not hard. It's not as hard, right, when it's a simple thing like borrowing the pencil and breaking it. But sometimes if what somebody does hurts you or makes you feel sad or takes something or does something that's very special to you, it's really hard to forgive somebody sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. But what does Jesus say? We have to forgive somebody. We have to forgive them. And that's hard sometimes, yeah. Okay. All right. So let's read our Bible story and see what happens about forgiving 70 times 7. And this comes from the Gospel of Matthew. All right. Jesus, Peter asked, if someone is unkind to me, how many times should I forgive? 1 time? 2 times? 7 times? Not 1, 2, or 7 times, But 70 times 7, Jesus replied. Peter started to count to 490. That was a lot of times. But why, Jesus? He asked. Jesus looked with kind eyes at his friend. We forgive each other because we love each other. Okay, so what happens after you say I'm sorry to someone? Take a minute, think about that. What happens after you say I'm sorry to someone? Then Jesus told Peter a story about forgiveness. See, he's counting. He's questioning. 490 times. Yeah, 70 times 7. So Jesus' story. A man owed his king a lot of money. The man worked hard to pay his debt, but it wasn't enough. He worked even harder, but it still wasn't enough. Please give me more time, he begged. See, here's the money, okay? The king showed love to the man. He told him, you don't have to pay me. I forgive you your debt. So here he told him he forgives him his debt. And the man is all excited, right? Yeah. The man raced home to share his good news. On the way home, the man met one of his friends. You owe me money, he shouted. His friend couldn't pay the debt. The man became angry and threw his friend in prison. He got angry and threw his friend in prison. When the king heard this, he felt frustrated. He told the man, I forgave you because you asked me, and I showed mercy. Choose to forgive and love others like I did for you. So the king got angry. Why did the king get angry? Because he forgave the man when he asked for forgiveness, right? But then what did the man do? He didn't forgive his friend, did he? He didn't show kindness and love and forgiveness to his friend. Okay. All right, so let's think. How many times did Jesus tell his disciples to forgive? What did they say? 70 times 7. All right, and what did we say that equaled? 490, that's right, okay. Who were the characters in the story that Jesus told about? Who were the characters? We had a king, and we had the man, right, who owed the king money, and then we had the man's friend who owed that man money, right? Okay. Why was the king angry at the servant that he had forgiven? Why was he angry at the man that he forgave? Yep, why was it? Because the man didn't forgive his friend who owed him money, right? Yeah, the king forgave him, but he didn't forgive his friend, and so the king got very angry that that man wouldn't show the same care and compassion to his friend that the king showed to that man. All right, so now here's a tough question. Who do you think the king represents in the story? Who do you think the king is? What did the king do? He listened to the man, and the man asked for forgiveness, and he forgave him his debt, right? And he showed love and compassion and care. What does that sound like? Jesus, right? Good answer. That's right. The king was Jesus who forgave the man. All right. Now, who do you think the man is and represents? That might be tougher. Who do you think the man was who needed to be forgiven his debt and was so excited when the king forgave him, but turned around and wasn't nice to his friend? Who do you think that man might have been? Maybe we better look in the mirror, huh? That might be us. Sometimes we're not as forgiving or kind to others as we could be, are we? We don't always forgive people like Jesus would like us to. Yeah, I think that's right. So think about it and talk about with your friends in the room with you, when are times that you could offer forgiveness? So think about that and talk about that with each other. And I bet you if you've got sisters or brothers in the room with you, or your moms and dads, or grandpas and grandmas, or aunts and uncles. Think about a time when you could offer forgiveness. Because I'll bet there's a time when some of them did something that you were upset about, and you could offer forgiveness. So you think about that and take a minute to talk about that. Okay? All right, now get out your leaflets. And we're just going to talk through what we're going to do, okay? Since we took our adventure, it took a little more time, so I'm just going to walk you through what you need to do with your leaflet, okay? So the man in the story today needed forgiveness, didn't he? Because he didn't have money to pay his debt. So take some time and think about some reasons why you might need forgiveness. Okay, so think about those and talk about them amongst yourselves. And then get your sheet, and you see all the faces? Got sad ones and happy ones and stuff? All right. So this is your game board, and now you need your pennies. Okay? So I want you to place a penny on the face that shows how easy or hard it might be to forgive someone if they did something that upset you, that you needed to forgive them for. Like if somebody stole something out of your backpack, or if the neighbor left your gate open and your pet escaped, or your best friend forgets your birthday, or mom or dad forgets to make the cupcakes for the bake sale, or your brother or sister rips a hole in your favorite shirt. So think of things, those are things that you would have to forgive them for, wouldn't you? Yeah, so think about those kinds of things, and then put the pennies on the faces of how you would feel about forgiving them, okay? And see which face ends up with the most pennies. And give everybody a chance to try a couple times, okay? So that's the game you're going to play with that. And then on the other side of that one, you see all the numbers? So, and what was our number for today that was important? It was 7, wasn't it? So see how many times you can find 7 on your sheet and circle all those times, okay? And find out, was it hard or easy to find those 7s? Yeah, it's kind of like forgiving. Sometimes it's hard, we can't find the 7s, and sometimes it's easy when they're big and obvious. So that's what you can do with your sheet, okay? So that's the good thing. Our quick review, Peter thought he was being generous, right, by asking Jesus if he should forgive 7 times, because he thought that was a whole lot. And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7 is the amount of times you need to forgive. All right, so that's good. Let's pray. Okay, shall we pray? Remember, repeat after me. Dear God, forgive us for when we do things wrong. Help us forgive others too, to share the forgiveness you give us. Amen. All right. So how are we gonna end? We have to end with our blessing, don't we? And I need a helper today. And who's my helper today? Rebecca's not here. Who's gonna help me? Who's gonna help me? Someone's coming.
I will.
Pastor John's gonna help us. You get to see him this week. All right. So let's do our blessing. Are you ready? God blesses all of us. And God blesses me. And God blesses you.
And God blesses me, and God blesses you.
And that means me. And that means you. And that means me. And that means you. And that means me. And that means you.
And that means me, and that means you.
God blesses me. And God blesses you. This means me. And this means you. And God blesses me. And God blesses you.
And God blesses me, and God blesses you.
God blesses me. And God blesses you. God blesses me. God blesses you. God blesses me. God blesses you. God blesses me. God blesses you.
Go and bless the world. See you next week.